Hello, everybody, and welcome to the November 21st Trips and Traps. Andy Serling flying solo this week. Eric Donovan is out. We're bringing you 3 races from last week at Aqueduct. I'd like to bring you some more, but had a little fog roll through here on Sunday, which made it a little harder to get races. But we're going to start out with a performance that in some ways I thought, and I think a lot of people agreed, was the performance of the week. It's a trip, but a trip on a horse that won, and a first-time starter named Summer Solo for trainer Christophe Clement. You can see Summer Solo. She breaks about a length slowly right there, and she'll be in those brown silks, and you'll see her behind the field. As they head to the first turn, Joel Rosario just sort of takes her out of trouble and gets her to the outside, and you sort of watch this ride. You think about the final result of the race, and you just wonder if Joel had a very good sense of how good flying Summer Solo was, and he kind of just wanted to keep her out of trouble, because the truth is, with the kind of trip that she got in general, it's very, very hard to win. I will say, though, when you see her, she's all the way in the back of the pack, and you can see what I mean. Joel's got her off the rail. She's in the 3 wide. It's not exactly one of the more enviable positions to be in for a horse, but this Aqueduct turf course, it's interesting watching our turf course. They evolve during the course of the year, and they get very firm during the summer. In Saratoga, we saw the courses get firm late in the meet. Belmont's course, because we had virtually no rain during the fall meeting, got very, very firm and harder and favorable to speed. But these Aqueduct courses, they're not going to dry this time of year. They're much fairer, and we're seeing horses make big runs from last, which certainly worked in the favor of Summer Solo. But keep in mind, the horse that is up front right now, and here's Summer Solo as she sort of makes a premature move, in essence, at the back of the pack. What would be considered a premature move for a horse that wasn't as much the best as she was. Keep in mind, once again, Flying KC, who's up in front right now, and that's her, she'll actually finish second in this race. So it is not a race that melted down. It didn't fall apart. It's just a situation where Summer Solo wins this race by 2.5 lengths, was much the best. And I think as a debut performer, this was a very, very promising debut for a horse who will at least turn out to be a very good New York bred, if not more so, as I imagine Christophe Clement will be bringing her down to Florida. You see her, Joel has taken her 4 to 5 wide in the turn. She gets pushed to the far, far outside here into the stretch. But this is a horse that never at any point in the race did she save ground, did she get a breather behind horses. All the things that happened to her make it very, very hard for a horse to win in the turf. And you can see her acceleration. Joel gets her out in the clear here, and she just goes motoring by everybody. And once again, watch the race. Horses came from 6th, 7th to finish 3rd and 4th. Horse who was 2nd the whole way finished 5th. That horse was actually a pretty reasonable price. This was not a meltdown race. This was simply a horse, Summer Solo, that's just a lot better than her competition. I think we can expect to see a lot more from her, whether or not she runs in Florida right away, or maybe Christophe waits until we get back to Belmont or Aqueduct in the spring. Regardless, Summer Solo is a horse whose name you're going to hear again in the future. She will not be a well-kept secret. We'll look at a completely different situation, and this is a race a couple of people sent me emails about, and some people on Twitter wanted to look at the 7th race from the 15th, a 4-horse field. And the first thing to note is, as we break kind of slowly from the gate, is the number 2 in here, Kara's Match Point. She actually didn't break slowly. What she did was break a little sluggishly, in the sense that she broke with the field and gradually kind of took herself out of the race. Not really that big a deal, as you do see the other horses sort of going in the front, but this was a fairly moderate pace. And you'll see the other 3 horses actually end up hitting the wire together, separated by very, very little distance. Now, Kara's Match Point, the rider sort of he's not really asking her. She's actually taking him into the race. She was coming off of, she'd actually run at the end of October, but she may have been a little fresh in this race. There's nothing wrong with what's going on now, but I think what this race shows you, and listen, maybe some of you will argue, is the longest shot on the board. She was 5th, 4th best anyway. I'm not sure that's the case, and neither of the people who asked me to show the race. I think it's a situation of overcommitting the rail. Okay, she's down the inside now. He feels there's no necessity, and I can understand that, to not save ground in the turn. But now that you're in the stretch, I think you want to try to be angling out, because they're not going through on the inside. First he tries the inside, that shuts off. Now he's looking and hoping there's some separation. That's not really happening. What surprised me here was he looked again to go inside. And he ends up, by the time he's able to get this filly to the outside, the others have momentum and they have distance that she can't close. It's easy to second guess, but you do wonder in watching this, and I think this will come up in the next race that we talk about. If she had been able to drift to the outside and get herself out in the clear, could she have got a less encumbered, clear run, and would she have made it closer to the finish? Well, obviously, a lot of people felt that way, or they wouldn't ask me about it. I'm not really sure, but I think when we watch our next race, there is a very good example of the benefit for being outside closing in the clear as opposed to the one inside of horses, whereas saving ground is not always a panacea. This race, and this race is the this race, I believe, is the 8th race, actually, from Saturday, the 16th. We're going to look at Bon Vigilante, who is the favorite, who was forced by his rail position. Another Chad Brown horse, the 7 horse, Zevo, and he's the one who's going to be sort of encumbered as he tries to rally. And the horse who may have been best of all, and that was the 9 Zetterholm, a once promising 3-year-old that actually ran the Preakness in 2012 that may finally be getting himself into form. For me, the first thing that I want to talk about is Bon Vigilante, who was maybe a little overbet at 9-5 here, though I like his chances. He's forced by his rail position. Maybe he's not that good, but I think ultimately this race really melted down because 2 of these 3 horses back here are going to run 1-2 in this race. So being up front wasn't a favor to him, and he's forced to set the pace. You could even see Javier sort of urge him out of the gate because of his post. I think this was really the only thing that they felt they could do, and I don't think he ran that badly, beaten less than 4 lengths for all the money here. Ultimately, he finished 5th, the photo for 3rd. Now, Zetterholm is in those blue silks all the way on the outside. He's in a tweener position, and here, once again, Bon Vigilante, Zevo all the way to the back, who we'll get to, and Zetterholm in those blue silks on the outside. This situation where, as I said, it's kind of like a tweener where he doesn't drop fully out of the race, and he ends up making the early premature move. Whether or not he's going to be more comfortable settling in the future, that remains to be seen. But I think he's the one that maybe made the toughest first move and helped soften things up for the others as you see him making that 4-wide move. Now, all the way in the back, you'll see the eventual winner in the yellow West Point silks. He has the outside run. That's Awesome Vision. He's on all the way on the outside. Okay, that's Awesome Vision. Here is Zevo behind horses. Now, of course, we've got Bon Vigilante on the inside. Zetterholm was collapsing the race on the outside. But I want to keep in mind now, let's talk about the closers. There's Awesome Vision with that nice, sweet, open real estate in front of him. There's Zevo inside of him with a wall of horses where you see the rider kind of wants to go the outside. Very good ride on the winner by Arad Ortiz, making sure to close that door. Zevo's got to duck towards the inside, split horses. But you think about making that unencumbered move. It looked like he had the momentum. It looks like he regains his momentum late in the race. But ultimately, Awesome Vision, by having that outside position out in the clear, maybe his run was a little bit easier. Zevo took advantage of dynamics, but perhaps if he had been outside in the clear and you reversed field, he would have been the one who won the photo. Ultimately, Zetterholm, in my opinion, ran the best race of anybody. I wouldn't say he was supposed to win this race. He would be the one, I should say, I want out of this race. I believe he's rounding into form, and he made that first move, the move that helped collapse the race late. Once again, I can always use your help here. Eric Donovan will be back. I don't think we'll be doing a show next week as it is Thanksgiving, but we will certainly be back in a couple of weeks, and Eric and I can always use your help. Trips and traps at NYRank.com.